To formalize what we just have discussed, we introduce the term relative velocity. So in other words, we define the velocity relative to a reference frame. In the examples we discussed, we had a person moving relative to a train. The reference of frame for that person is the train. And the train was moving relative to the ground. So the reference of frame for the train is the ground. You have other examples like a plane moving relative to the air. The air is moving relative to the ground. You can think of many examples. A boat moving relative to the water moving relative to the ground, and so on. As we showed in the examples, these velocities are related by vector addition. Okay, and look at the notation. V of A relative to C is equal to V of A relative to B plus V to B relative to C. Okay, what you need to pay attention to, the object that's moving is the first index, the reference is the second. So when we do the vector addition here, the velocity addition, the object is in the first order here. It comes first in the indices. It's again in the first order here. The frame of reference is in the second order. You find it here in the second order. And whatever we introduce as a frame of reference here, we'll have to introduce it as an object. We wrote the equation here for two objects. Let's expand it a little bit. Let's say, for example, you are moving on the train, carrying a tray, and on the tray, you have a small bug that's moving relative to the tray. Okay, so this is the person, holding the tray, an object moving relative to the tray, the person is moving relative to the train, all of that is in the train. That's moving relative to the ground. How would we write that in this, in terms of this? Velocity of bug relative to the ground would be velocity of bug relative to the tray, but the tray is really the same velocity as the person, so we say velocity of the bug relative to the person plus velocity of the person relative to the train plus velocity of the train relative to the ground. All of these as vectors. That's the velocity addition formula.